Two golden beams pierced heaven. The gods trembled. Born from stone, destined for chaos. This is the rise of Sun Wukong. How did a playful monkey become a king, a disciple, and eventually a threat to the heavens? The answer starts here. Leaving aside the heavenly troops surrounding the mountain of flowers and fruit, waiting for their next chance to strike, let us turn to Guanyin, the bodhisattva of great mercy and compassion from Mount Putuo in the southern sea. She arrived with her disciple Huiyan to visit the Jade Emperor and the Queen Mother of Heaven. "Pray, how went the Feast of Immortal Peaches this year?" she asked. At the mere mention of the feast, the Jade Emperor's anger rose. "Every year the gathering is one of joy and celebration," he said, "but this time that wretched monkey spirit ruined everything." "And where did this monkey spirit come from?" inquired the bodhisattva. The Jade Emperor sighed. "He was born from a stone on the mountain of flowers and fruit in the land of Aeoli, east across the seas. When he first emerged, his eyes shone with golden light, but we thought little of it until he grew into a true menace, taming dragons and subduing tigers with frightening ease. The Dragon King of the Eastern Sea reported his mischief, so we summoned him to heaven and granted him the title of Keeper of the Heavenly Horses. Yet the wretch scorned the position as too lowly and rebelled. Later, we pacified him with another title, Great Sage Equal to Heaven, though it was an empty rank, with no real duties or rewards. With nothing to occupy him, he wandered idly through the heavens. Fearing he might stir up trouble, we tasked him with overseeing the peach orchard, but instead of keeping order, he stole and devoured every ripe peach from the ancient trees. And then came the Feast of Immortal Peaches. Since he held no true rank, he was not invited. In revenge, he tricked the barefoot immortal, disguised himself in the immortal's likeness, and snuck into the banquet. There, he gorged on the celestial delicacies and wine, stole Laozi's elixir of immortality, and even made off with jars of divine wine to share with his monkey followers back on his mountain. The Jade Emperor's voice grew weary. We had no choice but to dispatch 100,000 heavenly soldiers to capture him. They've laid down nets across the skies, but a full day has passed, and still we await news of victory. Hearing this, the bodhisattva turned to her disciple. "Huiyan," she said, "go and lend your strength to the battle." Now, this disciple Huiyan was none other than Prince Moksha, the second son of heavenly King Li Jing. For many years he had studied under the guidance of Guanyin, the bodhisattva of compassion. Hearing of the battle, he descended to the mountain of flowers and fruit and sought out his father. "Father," he said, "allow me to join the fight." King Li gazed at his son with concern. "You have trained long under the bodhisattva's wisdom, my child, and surely possess great power, but take care." With that, the young prince stepped beyond the heavenly camp, gripping his iron staff. "Which of you is the so-called great sage equal to heaven?" he called out boldly. At once, the Monkey King sprang forward, golden staff in hand. "Here stands the great sage himself," he declared, "and who dares to challenge me?" "I am Moksha, second son of heavenly King Li Jing," the prince replied, "now a disciple of the bodhisattva Guanyin, bearing the name Huiyan." The Monkey King grinned. "If you dwell in the sacred South Sea, why trouble yourself with this place?" Huiyan's eyes flashed. "I have come to capture you," the great sage laughed. "Bold words. Then let us see if you can back them up. Have at you." Without fear, Huiyan raised his iron staff to meet the golden one. High above the mountain, the two clashed in a dazzling duel, their weapons weaving like silver and gold in the air. Back and forth they fought, blow after blow, until 50 or 60 rounds had passed. Yet slowly, Huiyan began to falter. His strength waned, his movements grew heavy, and at last, he could hold no longer. With a final, desperate block, he turned and retreated, defeated. Now Erlang Shen arrived at the mountain of flowers and fruit with his 6 sworn brothers from Meishan, along with his 4 trusted generals, Kang, Zhang, Yao, and Li, and 2 mighty warriors, Guo, Shen, and Ji Jian. First, they asked Heavenly King Li Jing to stand ready with his demon-revealing mirror to track the Monkey King's movements. Then Erlang himself led his companions out to challenge the great sage. When Sun Wukong emerged from his cave to meet them, he grinned playfully at the young warrior. "Well now," he chuckled, "who might you be, little general, that you dare come knocking at my door?" Erlang Shen's eyes flashed with pride. "I've come to capture you, you rebellious stable hand who dares defy the heavens. Don't you know when you're beaten?" The 2 warriors then began an epic battle that lasted 300 rounds, with neither gaining advantage. Suddenly, Erlang summoned his divine power and transformed himself, growing 10,000 feet tall. His 3-pointed, double-edged sword became as massive as a mountain peak, and with a fearsome expression, he brought it crashing down toward the Monkey King's head. But Sun Wukong was not to be outdone. With a laugh, he grew equally enormous, raising his golden staff like a pillar holding up the sky to block Erlang's mighty blow. As the great sage battled Erlang Shen, he suddenly noticed something troubling. Nearly 3,000 of his monkey soldiers had been captured. The rest were scattering in every direction, some fleeing up the mountain, others darting into caves, their frightened cries filling the air. A flicker of worry crossed the Monkey King's heart. Quickly shrinking back to normal size, he turned to make his escape, but Erlang would not let him go so easily. "Where do you think you're running?" the god called, giving chase. "Surrender now, and I might spare your life." With a clever thought, the great sage shrunk his golden staff into a tiny needle and tucked it behind his ear. Then, with a shimmer, he transformed into a little sparrow, fluttering up to perch on a tree branch. Erlang spotted the transformation immediately. In a flash, he became a fierce eagle, swooping toward the small bird. Seeing danger approach, the sparrow changed again, this time into a great cormorant that soared high into the sky. Undaunted, Erlang shifted into a majestic crane that pursued through the clouds. Down, down flew the cormorant, plunging into a river where it became a silvery fish darting through the water. But Erlang simply transformed into a keen-eyed osprey that dove after it. One last change came as the fish wriggled near shore, becoming a slender water snake that slipped into the riverside reeds. Yet even here, Erlang had an answer, morphing into a gray heron that stalked through the grass, ever watchful for its serpentine prey. Seeing no escape as a water snake, the clever Monkey King had one last trick. With a shimmer of magic, he transformed himself into a tiny temple. His mouth became the temple gates, his teeth turned into wooden doors, and his tongue shaped itself into a statue of the temple's deity. His bright eyes became round windows, but his troublesome tail proved difficult to hide. Thinking quickly, he stood it straight up behind him, transforming it into a tall flagpole. Erlang Shen, having lost sight of his mischievous prey, suddenly noticed this small shrine where none had stood before. His sharp eyes immediately spotted something odd. Now, what temple ever had its flagpole at the back? He chuckled to himself. That rascal monkey is trying to trick me again. If I walk through those gates, he'll snap his jaws shut on me. I should knock out his windows first and kick down those doors. Hearing this, The Monkey King's heart skipped a beat. Oh dear, those windows are my eyes, and those doors are my teeth, if he destroys them. Before Erlang could act, with one mighty leap, the temple vanished into the air, leaving only a faint cloud of magic dust behind. Now the clever Monkey King had one last trick. He transformed himself to look exactly like Erlang Shen and slipped away to the god's riverside temple at Guangku. But the real Erlang soon discovered the ruse and gave chase, finally surrounding the mischievous monkey with all his forces. Meanwhile, back in the heavens, there had been no news since Erlang and his brothers left to capture the great sage. Guanyin, the gentle bodhisattva of mercy, turned to the Jade Emperor with a suggestion. Your Majesty, perhaps we should step outside the southern heavenly gate to observe the battle ourselves? Wise counsel, nodded the Emperor. Together with Lord Laozi, the Queen Mother, and other celestial beings, they floated to the heavenly balcony. Below them they could see countless heavenly soldiers forming shimmering rings around one small, defiant figure. Guanyin smiled softly. Does the nephew I recommended prove worthy? Lord Laozi stroked his long beard thoughtfully. Indeed, his powers are remarkable. With but a little help from my treasures, we might end this game. What treasure do you speak of? Inquired Guanyin. From his sleeve, the ancient sage produced a gleaming circle of polished steel. This diamond noose was tempered in sacred fires and nourished by my elixirs. It resists all elements, follows any command, and never misses what it seeks to hold. His eyes twinkled like stars. One gentle toss, and our playful troublemaker shall be caught. A quiet smile graced Guanyin's lips as she gazed upon the magical artifact, its surface glowing with captured moonlight. The wise Lord Laozi stepped forward, his silvery beard shimmering like moonbeams. This clever monkey, he mused, has feasted on celestial peaches, drunk the imperial wine, and helped himself to my precious elixirs. Those 5 gourds of golden pills, some raw, some refined, now dwell within him, making his body stronger than tempered steel. No ordinary method can touch him now. He turned to the Jade Emperor with a thoughtful nod. Perhaps if this little alchemist were placed in my 8-trigram furnace, the gentle dance of yin and yang flames might separate the elixirs from their mischievous keeper. With the Emperor's approval, Laozi guided the bound monkey to his celestial workshop. There, with great care, the ancient sage removed the enchanted ropes and ushered the great sage into the glowing furnace. The furnace keepers and fire-tending apprentices stirred the flames to a warm golden glow as the great cosmic crucible began its patient work. After 7 times 7 days of patient waiting, Lord Laozi unsealed his cosmic furnace with great care. But before the wisps of golden smoke had cleared, the great sage, now glowing like polished bronze, sprang forth in one joyful leap. The startled furnace keepers reached to gently restrain him, but with movements as light as dandelion fluff, he danced past them all. Even wise Laozi's attempt to catch his sleeve only sent the old sage tumbling softly onto a cushion of clouds. Now free as the wind, the Monkey King plucked his tiny needle from behind his ear. With a whispered word, it grew into his beloved golden staff. What followed was like watching a playful whirlwind dance through the heavens. Stars twinkled behind closed doors. Celestial generals vanished like morning mist until the merry chaos reached the very steps of the Jade Emperor's palace. There stood the brave guardian Wang Lingguan, his voice calm but firm. Mischief maker, this far you may not go. Their ensuing dance of staff and whip sparkled like fireflies in the twilight, neither gaining advantage even after many turns. When 36 thunder generals joined in circling him, the great sage simply multiplied. 3 glowing faces smiled where one had been. 6 arms whirled 3 staves in a golden pinwheel of motion that kept all at bay. From his moonbeam throne, the Jade Emperor observed this celestial ballet with thoughtful eyes. Perhaps, he murmured to two waiting messengers, the time has come to invite the Buddha's peaceful wisdom to our starry halls.